Thank you. Morning, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, it's so fun to be here in a room full of innovators, in a room full of change makers, people that are interested in lifelong learning. Here you are, helping to be at the forefront of how we drive our state forward. And so I just, again, want to start with gratitude, as I always do, but I know we've got legislators here. I heard that Longmer and Shively were here. I know we got some state elected officials. I saw Thomas Beadle back there, state treasurer. We serve on the state land board together, managing a $6 billion trust fund, endowment fund for K-12. What states have that are small as ours? That's incredible. And we've got so many great people. I know the chancellor's right here down in front. Chancellor, thank you. And then President Doug Jensen here, and all the great things going on at BSC. Doug Jensen, by the way, it's tough going through life with the world's best first name. And Doug's had to do that. I got a call last year from a reporter that said, hey, I'm writing a story about how Doug's are making a comeback. And I had got a little bit of a head start that he was going to call, and that was the topic. And he said, what do you think? Are Doug's making a comeback? Well, I'm sure that if any of you have got kids or grandkids, you see those lists of most popular birth names that they have. And there's a place you can look up on Wolfram Alpha, and then you just type in a name, and then it'll tell you where it ranks in the most popular birth names. Because if it's USA Today or something, they have the top 10 or the top 10 for of these different names. And so I looked up Doug, and I was happy to report this morning, and I had this before I did the interview, but that I think we are making a comeback because Doug has clawed its way back into the top 1,700 most popular birth names. We went from we were 1,800th on the list or something. We're up to like 1,700 most popular. So I just want to say are there any other Dougs in the room? Okay, there's one there. Any others? Just the one. Okay, we're making a comeback. There's now 3 of us here in the room. Way to go. But listen, we're going to have a fantastic day. We've got these amazing presenters. We got amazing sponsors. We got amazing partners that are out here on displays out here. But what we know in our state is that education doesn't just happen in the school buildings. It happens throughout life. It happens through sports. It happens through extracurricular activities. It happens through organizations. It happens through their summer jobs and their activities, and now internships, and opportunities have never been greater. And one of the people that really understands this is our superintendent, Superintendent Baszler here. She's going to be with us all day, but she really helped lay the framework for our state, which I think is one of the best in the country, which is that high school and K-12 isn't just college preparatory. It's not like, we're going to get kids through this system for 12 or 13 or more years so that they can go to college and then try to figure out what they're going to do and then figure out how they're going to make a living. We know that in general that model has failed in our country, because if it hadn't failed, then we wouldn't have $1.5 trillion of student debt, which isn't the student's fault. I mean, a student loan is just a pass-through grant that goes into higher education. And so we've been sort of subsidizing at the federal level, funding, which then straps the student with the debt, but flows through to the university. The university doesn't have to pay back the debt, the student does. And so we know that there's many other ways, and you can have career pathways in industry, in the military, and in other pathways where you can end up having a great career, a great family, be a great contributing, but not be saddled with all the debt. And so in North Dakota, we want to be at the forefront of all this, and part of this is empowering these students. Again, as the superintendent likes to say, they represent they're 100% of our youth, and in our state, we've got a lot of them. Our state is growing again, getting younger, which is fantastic, but they're 100% of our future leaders, represent the folks that you're involved with. So today, we have 6 words that we talk about in state government: empowering people, improving lives, and inspiring success. We worked on those 6 words, and we said that's what we do in state government in every single agency. That's the purpose statement for North Dakota state government. That's what we do. That's why the legislature meets. That's why all of our agencies do that work. But it turns out, if you're a teacher, if you're a principal, if you're a superintendent, if you're just a volunteer, if you're working in behavioral health, supporting our students, that's what you do also. You empower people, you improve lives, and you inspire success. So I love the fact that we've got alignment across everything that we're doing, and education now just isn't about, when we think about it in our administration, it's not just about, we've got DPI, with a several billion-dollar budget, totally incredibly supported by our legislature. It's not just about higher ed, where we've had great support from our legislature and from our citizens and from our alumni, into that. It's not just about that. It's a whole of government, because we know that behavioral health, so health and human services, we know it's every agency that we have that has an opportunity to help create learning opportunities. So it's everybody involved right now across our thing, because education is so important. So when we take a look at this whole of government approach, then we have to look back, and I want to take a little bit of a look back, because we've been focusing on innovation in education for 8 years. And if you're participating today, it's because you care about the future of education, you care about our children, you care about the future of the state. And we all know one thing, and we know this because I've gone out and shadowed students in our school districts, on a surprise basis. That I've been there. And when I've been in some of these schools, I've said, wow, this experience is very similar to what I had when I was going to high school in Arthur. Bell rings, 3 minutes, got to go to class. Instead of a chalkboard, it might be a whiteboard. Instead of an overhead projector, it might be a computer screen. But it's still kids in desks and teachers giving a lesson and then sending homework, and the similarity over that. And I was thinking, wow, I've spent my life in tech, where every job, every industry, every company's changed completely. But in the model that I had growing up was a 19th century model. And then here we are in the 21st century, and we're still using a 19th century model. We know we can't prepare kids for a 21st century future that's accelerating with its change with the 19th century model. So we knew that, and we knew that 8 years ago. So again, with great support from our legislators, we have driven a lot of change to help our students be choice ready. The schools now, with the leadership at the local level, when we focused on innovation, not regulation, I'm not going to stand up here and say, over the last 7.5 years, here's all the mandates that we've driven, that we've shoved down on K-12. No, what we've done is tried to cut the red tape so that innovation can thrive. We've laid a foundation for fostering this innovation, and we should be really celebrating how this working as one has created this positive change, because we believe in innovation over regulation. But if I have one piece of sadness that I want to share with all of you today, is that you're probably in the room, and the people we're going to have on stage and the awards we're going to give out today are representing the people who have grabbed this opportunity. We've opened the gate to innovation and said schools don't have to be the way they were when you went to school, or when your parents or your grandparents. We have an opportunity to do things differently, and we know that when we do that, we can engage students differently and better. We can help them in their lives. We can help them assess. We help our communities. But too few of our 175 school districts in the state have actually taken the opportunity to grab that innovation. And let me start with the first one, the Innovation Waiver, Senate Bill 2186. This was a historic bill signed in our first legislative session. It allowed districts or schools to waive certain requirements to allow flexibility. We went out and listed, and they said, this is what we need. We've got too much red tape in education. And so we fought hard, and we got consensus, and we passed this bill. It allowed schools to create a different experience for the customer, who's the student. It was around improving their experience. We reduced red tape, we provided flexibility, and that was just the beginning of the story. But today, less than 15% of these 175 school districts have even applied for a waiver. And so is it too complex? Is it not whatever? Was that not the real problem? What was it? But we went out and did it. Then others said, oh, it turns out I didn't have to actually apply for a waiver, but the fact that that waiver was there inspired us that we didn't have to ask permission to start doing things differently. So maybe there's some additional benefit with this that got people thinking about it. But I think, again, for the leaders that are in this room, this is also a time for reflection. We're about trying to figure out what it is that we can continue to do. If there's something in that innovation waiver bill that we didn't waive enough, or we didn't provide enough incentive, let's think about it. Because at a time when we know that across this country, parents are demanding more from their schools, they're demanding more involvement in their schools, they're demanding more choice in how their kids are educated, we believe we've created this flexibility. If you don't think the flexibility is there, we want to hear about it. My team wants to hear about it. Just about every single person from our little office or the governor's office is here today. They're wearing their t-shirts and running around. Grab one of them. Tell us what it is that you need so that we can keep fighting to make sure that you've got your choices. But choice ready, again, First state to implement a choice-ready framework. Other states are still solely on scores. We've got scores, but we've also got this. Superintendent Baszler led this effort. When I talk to other governors about this, they're like, that's amazing. It's like so common sense. It's so obvious. And it's so powerful because when you think about, helping people out with these three options, whether career, military, or college, these are things that, again, help inspire success, because if you go into career and if you go into the military, it doesn't foreclose that you're going to get a 4-year degree or a 6-year degree. No, it just means that you're aligning yourself with a group that's going to pay for your college. I mean, we've got so many benefits where even in our own National Guard paying for college, I mean, it's like this is a pathway to get whatever education you want. In the federal accountability system, we know there's a lot of things that are broken with that. They do not give the states enough flexibility. We will always keep pushing back against the federal government to make sure that education and education policy can be driven locally. But we know this. Superintendent Baszler knows that a huge chunk of her team spends a bunch of time trying to deal with federal compliance, and they just keep piling on rules like they do to our agriculture industry, our oil and gas industry, our baseload energy industry. I mean, like, part of my job now is just fighting the federal government. Part of her job is fighting the federal government. But as we keep fighting for educational freedom at this level, we know that all of you are best equipped to make the best decisions here. But with that choice-ready framework, it continues to be an evolving document. It supports the multiple pathways towards career, towards military, and college. And wow, have we invested in those pathways. Let's just talk about career. I mean, what our legislature has done. We have the most amazing example right here on this campus, right here. We have this amazing example because the Career Academy in Bismarck, between the Bismarck Public Schools and other schools in this region and Bismarck State, is a shining example of how career and technical education can occur. I've had an opportunity to tour the Career Center many times. The first time that I was there and I was talking to students, I met someone who was a senior, and I said, tell me about your experience. He said, all of my best friends are here at the Career Academy. He was going to BHS. He felt like an outsider. He wasn't the cool kid. He wasn't involved in sports, and he wasn't going to be part of the homecoming royalty. And he was maybe even struggling with his grades, but he came here and he met kids from Mandan and Class B schools and from Century and from others that had shared interest around what he was doing around careers. And he found a set of friends, and he stayed in school, and he kept driving forward. And he basically said, this changed my life. He was excelling, and he said, I may have even dropped out of high school, but this created a pathway for me. Then I went to another classroom, and I met kids that were at BSc, and they were in their freshman year of BSc, and I'm like, how's it going? And they said, well, it's going great. I said, tell me about it. They said, well, it was October of their freshman year at BSc. They had gotten their first year of a 2-year college degree well in high school because they'd earned enough credits to do that while they were getting their high school degree. And I said, what do you think you want to do? They said, I know what I want to do. What do you mean, Well, I've already got a job offer. It was October of their freshman year. They had a job offer for $72,000 working for one of our power plants in power plant management. And I'm like, how is that even possible? They said, well, this is a path. They're going to help with my whole thing, and I'm going to start working in an internship after my first semester of college. So middle of their freshman year, they were going to be going to work in an internship thing, and the power plant was going to pay for their class here at BC. And I said, well, wow, that's amazing. Anything else you want to tell me? Oh, I got a signing bonus, and I bought a Ford F-150 pickup, and my girlfriend thinks that's cool. And I'm like, I'm thinking about my college experience. I'm thinking about, people that were in October of their freshman year at NDSU, and they'd changed their major 3 times and had a DUI. So it's like, this is a different experience. I mean, we can set people on a path that is like really, really fantastic. So that is, and so then we had this shining example here, but we didn't have it all over the state. And our legislature understood that, hey, we've got to get this thing out to around the whole state. So when we had a chance and there was ARPA money that was flowing in, and we were able to divert that towards things where we know we didn't need it sometimes for public health, we were able to use it in other ways. And there we go, $120 million of state funds and ARPA funds have gone towards building out 8 more career centers modeled after the Career Academy. There's a picture here of Grand Forks where I was just touring recently. That's the steel going up. They needed to get a match. Our legislature smartly said, hey, we're going to give you a grant, but you've got to go match it locally. They raised in Grand Forks $12 million in 72 days from industry. 12 million bucks. Not from, benefactors and, I want to give back to my state. From businesses that said, I want to put money into that program because we need more team members. We need workers that understand and want to go in what we're doing. And so anyway, that is fantastic. That's happening all over the state. I was at the ribbon cutting at the one in Watford City recently, but these are popping up. So we're going to have, thousands and tens of thousands of more students that have the kind of opportunities that they had here at the Career Academy. That's a big shift. And then when we want to introduce students to skills, training, and networking, when I talked about whole of government, Pat Bertinoli, who's sitting right down here, Pat, stand up, wave your hand. If you don't know Pat, you need to know Pat. Come and talk to him at a break. Best leader of job service the state's ever had. Some people used to think that job service was about handing out federal unemployment checks. Pat Bertinoli spent his whole life as a recruiter working in the private sector. He's been very involved in the whole development of the whole Bakken. He's worked up there with high schools and with businesses and this. He's got a passion for this. Seriously, if you haven't met him, you got to meet him. But what he's doing around skills, training, and networking, they've got this T4, tools, trade, torque, and tech. They just did it up at Botno, but working with private sector people, introducing students as early as junior high to the opportunities in the workforce and the networking opportunity to do that. And so there's fantastic things that are happening. Pat, at Botno, what'd you have, 600 kids that came through over a couple days? 1,500 kids, I'm way off. Okay, 1,500 kids over a couple days in Botno from that region coming through to learn more. And who was helping sponsor that? Industry. So there's a partner out there for all of you in every one of your communities. There's probably someone that wants to give you money, and it's called your local businesses. Because every one of your local businesses has got a challenge, finding enough people, and they want to get more connected with the educational system like they never had before. CTE Director Wade Sick, where are you, Wade? Are you here somewhere? Somewhere in the room? He's back over there. Okay, I'm sure many of you know Wade, but Wade and his team also doing amazing work, continuing to champion career and technical education across the state, driving more funding towards them, driving more money towards CDE, distance education, driving more money towards job service. So Pat's job is not to send out checks for people that get unemployment. He's taken his role and he's always like, that's not my job. My job is to find everybody who's unemployed in our state, find them a job. And he's doing a pretty good job. There was a time a couple of years ago in June, we had the lowest number of people in the country that were on unemployment. I think Pat, the list was so small, Pat knew like the 12 names that didn't have a job. And then he was calling them every afternoon and going, hey, I got an interview open for you. So we are like totally getting after that, in part because we have 30,000 plus jobs available in our state. So there's big opportunities to connect with state government more than just with DPI. We've got lots of agencies that are here to help you. The National Guard, I talked about that. We've got young people that can sign up and go into the National Guard when they're starting their college. They could start and do that. And our National Guard, pay for tuition, pay for all kinds of stuff, work weekends. This is an incredible opportunity. Our National Guard has got amazing leadership. And whether it's in the Air Guard in North Dakota, whether it's in the National Guard, the number of opportunities, tuition assurance, health insurance, veterans comp, skills and leadership. And then you can still work in a civilian job. And many of our people that have been in the National Guard their entire life in North Dakota have great civilian jobs because these things there. We have 400 positions open, and we should be talking to everybody in all of our schools about the opportunities. But guess what? Across career, college, and military, you know what one is the hardest one for our students in North Dakota to qualify for? Military. You did like, military is like the third choice. If I can't make it in college and I can't get a job, I'll just, go get into the military. No, it's the other way around. The kids that can get into the military, they can pass the physical fitness. They can pass the, all the behavioral and mental health requirements now. They can pass the academic side. That's the top track in terms of the qualification. And we do these tests around the state and go, are your kids in your schools eligible for the military? I don't even know if they don't have to want to go to the military, but the fact that in some of our schools, 70% of the kids are not even eligible to go into our own National Guard because they don't hit the requirement, that ought to be a concern to everybody here. And we should be saying, what is it? If that's the high threshold, even if they don't want to have a military career, why aren't they ready physically, mentally, and behavioral health-wise to be able to do it? Because that is a great option. So anyway, focusing on higher education, this has always been the focus for a century. And we've got, incredible 11 great institutions across our state, 2 private ones. We've got great options in higher education, and some kids, that's where they want to go, and they'll go there, and we should support them in every possible way we can. But as I'll talk about a little bit later, higher ed is challenged with the same thing that all of you are changed. That there's 4 unstoppable forces: demographics, economics, culture, and technology that are driving that. Technology is the one we're focusing on today because that's driving big changes. But we are making progress through these campus partnerships with the private sector. You're seeing that here at not just at places like BSC and Dickinson and in North Dakota State School of Science in Wahpeton, but we're seeing it at all of our universities. There's great work that's going on. North Dakota State University with Grand Farm, University of North Dakota with what's going on in Grand Sky, the stuff that's going on at Minot State with addiction counseling and training. There's more and more connections that we're pushing for to try to make sure that our higher education institutions match up with what we need. And we've seen the transformation of educational delivery, whether it's right here, with a polytechnic shift going on at BSC, or whether we've got now 4-year schools like Dickinson that are adding certificate training, and they're adding 2-year programs to be more responsive to students who can learn at their own pace. One of the things that we did achieve was, of course, the Innovation Task Force. We created this as an executive order when I first got in. 16-person task force. It included Superintendent Baszler, myself, but it was educators, stakeholders from across the whole state. And we said, look, we're not coming in with the answer. We want to come in with questions. And so we created that task force, and it had a mission. It was supposed to come back and help us understand how we could empower all of you, empower the districts to adopt student-centric learning practices that were going to support the shift to the 21st century, that we're going to acknowledge that we had this rapid technological change. That task force, met in person. We met at different locations. We met down at Oaks at Class B school. We met, in places. We toured the Career Academy. We did 10 times in person, full day, 14 months, endorsed over a dozen policy recommendations, which some of those are alive and well today. Flexibility and graduation pathways, creating innovation toolkits, and more. But one of the big things was the permanent creation of something called the K-12 Coordinating Council. And so that task force was very successful. The K-12 Coordinating Council, as governor, I've had a chance to now meet, more than 49 other governors because there's been turnover in the last year. There is no other governor that has what we have here. There's no one. They're all jealous of North Dakota. They're always jealous because we're just amazing up here. We're amazing. Like the list of amazing on North Dakota is so long. Of course, they're jealous about North Dakota, but on the K-12 Coordinating Council, other governors spend their time. They might spend their time where teachers are on strike and they're protesting in front of the Capitol, and the legislature doesn't want to, give them a raise, and they're all focused on, the input, and that's another input. They're having these big battles, and it's in the paper every day, and no one's talking about the students, or like the scores are getting lower, but we need more inputs. I mean, that's what some of them deal with, and then I can't even talk to the teachers because they've got this union, and we're battling with each other. And then, that you've got the Superintendents Association over here, and you've got the PTA associations over here screaming for this, and we want that. And they're all fighting with each other, and they're all funding different candidates for election, and they think they're going to win this thing, by all shouting at each other. Well, in North Dakota, first of all, I don't see any of that really happening at any real degree. And guess what? Who's on the K-12 Coordinating Council? We've got teachers. We've got representatives from the legislature. We've got legislators from state government. The governor, the superintendent, and I are both on that. We've got classroom teachers. We got principals. We got school board members. We, by law, have a coordinating council where all the people in other states that fight each other all get together in a room multiple times a year to talk about what are the things that we need to move forward together with our focus on who? The student. The student. We actually have a state where the leaders actually get together and have meetings saying, how do we help the student? And so I got to tell you, this thing, treat this with great care and respect, because the K-12 Coordinating Council is a rare thing, and in other states they've never been able to achieve it. They ask, how did you get that done? How did that happen? Well, we're North Dakota. We actually can sometimes focus on the outcome. The outcome here is better students and better educational experience as opposed to focusing on the input. So anyway, finding shared goals, working collaboratively, that's what we're doing. We're more likely to achieve success for who? For the students. And so whether it's policy recommendations, responding to the latest hot button issues, working as one, is like we say on Team ND, that's what we're doing. This group works as one. We don't all agree, but at least we've come out in multiple legislative sessions and said, these are the priorities. So the legislators don't have to try to listen to, 10 different groups screaming at them. They can come together. And when we came together and said, we need CTE, then what did we get? We got $120 million for these 8 programs. Those kinds of things came from the coordinating council moving forward. Okay, moving along, 2017, House Bill 1020, that included a pilot program at Simley here for what? Behavioral health. Part of when we went out and listened and that innovation task force, we heard from everybody. Even pre-COVID, we heard from everybody. Look, the biggest issue we have in the classroom is behavioral health. Our teachers were not set up to want to just, deal with all the, they want to teach. They don't want to deal with behavioral health. They weren't trained for behavioral health. So our whole 2019 Ed Summit, again, pre-COVID, in Jamestown, focused on addressing behavioral health challenges in the classroom. And we had an incredible keynoter there, Dr. Stuart Album of Think Kids. And he gave this powerful, powerful thing, which basically said, we were still stuck in this 19th century model. If a kid was misbehaving, what did we do to them? We punished them. Send them to the principal's office, suspend them for 3 days, cut off their privileges. We had a rewards and punishment approach to a healthcare problem. And as he has proven in his research, it's not that that the kids lack the will to behave differently. They sometimes lack the skills. And they lack the skills in part because of the environment they're coming from at home. And we know that many of the kids that show up in school come from different environments. Some have had a great breakfast, some have had no food. Some have got 2 parents that are, caring and loving and reading books to them, and some of them grow up in households with no books. Some of them grow up with parents that are struggling with the disease of addiction, and some don't. And so the behavioral health things that are coming from the home into the school, we've got to, it's still one of the biggest challenges in the classroom today. You guys understand that better than anyone else. The goal, of course, should be that, that every school students have convenient and timely access to behavioral health services, and that we've got to continue to drive health services into the schools. And again, under the leadership now that we have, with our leadership at North Dakota Health and Human Services, we know that that's one of the focuses they're going to work on. The only other agency that's got as big a budget as education in our state is Health and Human Services, and those two have got to really work together. And I want to thank again Superintendent Baszler has been doing fantastic work in understanding the partnership that we have to have around behavioral health. It can't land on all of you. We have to have health professionals that are doing that. Part of behavioral health is addiction. I've touched on that. And one of the 5 strategic initiatives of our administration has been as part of behavioral health and addiction, because those are 2 co-occurring things. We do know now absolutely conclusively addiction is a brain disease. It's not a moral failing or a choice. And it's become even a bigger problem nationally because of the highly addictive nature of how synthetic opioids, including things like fentanyl, can rapidly change the brain chemistry in a way where a simple kind of response that we might have had before, which is go to a 28-day program and then you're going to be better, that just doesn't work anymore. I mean, it'd be the same as find out someone's got diabetes, which is a chronic, progressive, and if not treated, ultimately fatal disease. Addiction is a chronic, progressive, and ultimately fatal disease if not treated. And we would never tell someone who's got diabetes that, oh, we're going to give you 28 days of insulin, and if you haven't figured out, how to, completely change your lifestyle, change your diet, go to the gym every day, do all these other things. If you don't do that, we're going to take your insulin away from you. I mean, it's like we have to think about addiction as a disease, and we have to have better treatment methods that work differently. But we're so fortunate in our state that we've got someone who's courageously been telling their own story, inspiring others to seek dream and hope about recovery, eliminate the shame and stigma that goes along with this disease. And she's been doing that largely just by talking about it. But by talking about her story, she's influenced state policy around criminal justice reform. She's had an impact on the national level, all the way to the White House. And she's now serving on the National Board of Trustees of Hazel and Betty Ford. But amazing to witness the impact that she's had on the lives. She's not only changing lives, she's changing lives. We're going to have the 8th annual Recovery Reinvented on October 30th. I would encourage any of you that if you've got students or parents of students or others that are struggling with this disease that is so pervasive, you don't have to attend. You can dial in. We've got some places that have people that have said, hey, we're going to take a set of students and we're going to have looked in. I know I see people here. We've got from the Department of Corrections here that are working. We've had groups inside our corrections facilities that have had joint watch parties because it's all available online October 30th, 2024 in Bismarck. But she's here today, and I want to congratulate her on her 22nd year of recovery. But let's give it up for the best First Lady in America right here, Catherine. Yeah. What's that? It's free. Oh, Catherine, one more thing. It's free. It's free. And they're providing free water here at Bismarck State today, too, which is super cool. Thank you. North Dakota Personalized Competency-based Learning Cohort, that's a lot of words, but this is part of the future, which is we know that what we now have, the ND-PCBL, it's an incubator for personalized student experience. It's a multi-year commitment. We had 4 school districts that worked together. They got technical assistance from KnowledgeWorks, from DPI, other educational partners. May was the accumulation of a 6-year commitment. So we've been at this for a long time. Many districts haven't even touched this yet, but you're going to have an opportunity to hear this afternoon from students. Superintendent Baszler is going to lead a panel of students who've been in this curriculum, and we also have got some awards going on today. Your people are going to be recognized for this work, but this is a fantastic future where we're going, and that is part of then leading into the learning continuum and graduation pathway. We were the first state in the nation with legislation that allowed us to have competency-based education built on student proficiency and mastery of standards that count towards a high school deployment. We said to ourselves, we're going to get out of the butts and seats, X number of days, X number of things, and move towards a different pathway. And some people are doing it. So there's an opportunity. You don't have to listen to some far away land. People are trying it. It's happening right here. And this landmark legislation was a 4-year collaborative effort to pave the way for authentic learning and flexibility in supporting North Dakota students to achieve graduation. And kind of like what you see, in this picture from Wahpeton, high school kids can get out of the classroom. If they love agriculture, let's get them out literally in the field, learning and doing projects as opposed to theoretical stuff about, something in the classroom. We've got to break down the walls. We've got to get them engaged. Companies want to help. We can get authentic, hands-on, real-world, team-based experiences that build competency that then help them have confidence to go forward in life. It's not about they enter the building and you can't leave. Anyway, and you're going to hear this afternoon Dr. Corey Steiner, the amazing work, the award-winning work, nationally award-winning work that's gone on at Northern Cass. They were number 2 in the nation last year on the Yaz thing, won $500,000 for Northern Cass because of the work. Anyway, it's fantastic. So you'll hear from them in one of the breakouts earlier today. So if you're interested, make sure you go to that breakout. Learn Everywhere. This is one I'm super excited about. We got this thing passed again, House Bill 1478. This allows graduation credits to be fulfilled through internships, apprenticeships, and extracurricular. When I say hands-on, real-world, team-based learning with a certificate, what does that sound like? Well, if you've ever been in 4-H, it sounds like a 4-H curriculum. If you've ever been in FFA, and FFA even has now got cybersecurity certificates. If you've ever been in scouting, and now with the merger, girls and boys, but Scouting USA, sounds like a merit badge program. If you've got an Eagle Scout in your school that has got 5 merit badges related to health and first aid and first responder, they probably don't need to sit through a half a credit of health class because they've already got more skills than they would have. And this is a way to give them credit for the stuff they're doing in an extracurricular way. And this is a fantastic acknowledgement, again, by our legislature to be able to do this. And as part of that, Learning Everywhere is also internships. And I want to just throw in, again, a shout out on this whole government theme, but Parks and Rec. I was at an event recently down here at Lincoln. We were making some new announcements going on about everything that's happening at North Dakota Parks and Recs. We actually took a campsite and moved it up to official status a couple weeks ago up in Pembina Gorge. But our Parks and Recs department has got all kinds of summer opportunities around the state at the 14 parks that we have. Our Game and Fish has got summer opportunities, and these include high school and college. And all of these folks that are park superintendents, just, usually when you're governor, if you're in a large crowd and you're doing an announcement, you shouldn't ask a question unless you know the answer. But I had all the guys in uniform and gals that work for the park district, all the rangers, all standing in the back. And just on a lark, I said, hey, how many of you started your career at North Dakota Parks and Rec as a high school summer intern? And I thought we'll get a few of them that'll raise their hand, and then the people will see it's a good program. 90% of the people in the back in uniform raised their hand. Yeah, they fell in love working in the parks when they got a chance, when they learned that they loved working in parks in high school or in college. And so we've got these internship opportunities across the state of North Dakota. We're going to do a better job. Pat and others are going to help us, but we're going to make sure that we know that in places, again, where you've got kids that love the outdoors, they don't have to leave and go to someplace else. They can work right here in North Dakota and have fantastic opportunities. The early childhood program that we launched, this thing, called Best in Class, targeting 4-year-olds. This supports high quality learning environments. We know that this works. I mean, all of you know that it works. You know that if you can get someone who's 4 years old more exposure to reading, and through curriculum that's been proven, it's going to help them with their 2nd and 3rd grade reading levels. It's going to help them through their whole thing. It sets them on a different trajectory. The fantastic news is this is working. The unfantastic news is that, and there's more good news, that this fall there's another 10 communities are going to have access to the Best in Class program. The thing that's not fantastic is that this is not available in all communities in North Dakota. Part of it's a funding and part of it's support. But we've got 54 communities with Best in Class. They've got grant inwards. Total enrollment expected to grow by more than 50%. But it's sad to me that not every 4-year-old in our state has an opportunity for this. That means we need more partnerships. It can't all come from the state. But I would think that there's an opportunity again for school districts and for businesses and for the state to think about this, because this is something we know will have a great long-term effect. But it's working. That's the great news. Aspirational goals for statewide strategic vision. Again, this was something that was established by the K-12 Coordinating Council. It's a set of goals that everyone has agreed on, saying how can we measure our outputs? How can we build a growth model that there are 6 aspirational goals that drive those outcomes. There's a public dashboard where all of you can look at it and see if we're making progress there or not. One of the ways that we do make progress is we've got leadership at the local level. And part of this, again, I want to thank the superintendent, but the Be Legendary School Board training. We have so many parents that want to get involved in being involved on a school board, but if they've never been on a board, if they don't understand how governance works, if people that are on the school board think that it's their job to be the superintendent or the principal or the teacher, as opposed to provide the governance and set the goals and the vision. I mean, governance is something that has to be learned, the governance models, and I like local control. I love it. I support it. I want it to happen, but part of that is then we've got to have, when we have so many local positions, we have to give them an opportunity to come into that and be trained. And we've got 30% of school boards or 50 boards have completed this or in process. We're having a graduation, I think, today. We're acknowledging some more people that are here today. If you're part of that process, way to go, good job. 283 school board members, superintendents, educational leaders have completed the training. And again, we'll be doing some recognition today, but if this isn't happening in your community, you should be clamoring to make sure that it does happen and figure out a way to make sure that every school board in the state has an opportunity to go through the Be Legendary training. It's going to help us on our outcomes. Childcare investment, You might say, what does this have to do with anything? Well, this has to do with even supporting teachers. We know that if a teacher can't teach, if they're trying to also raise a family, he or she, if they can't get access to childcare, we know this was a challenge. We had challenges about affordability, availability, and quality across our state. This was the number one thing that was affecting our workforce, because we would invest in a North Dakota person, a guy or a gal, for 12 years in high school. We'd put them through college and help them do that. They'd go into the workforce, because everyone always says, oh, we need more trained workforce. The number one place of trained workforce who was not in the workforce was people who couldn't find childcare. We didn't have to get people to move here from other states. We didn't have to get them trained. We just had to allow parents that want to work to have access to high quality, affordable childcare so that they could keep working. So the number one thing we could do for workforce was to actually help solve this problem. And I'm happy to report that all the other child care providers, again, with this legislation, added more than 1,000 net new spaces over the last 12 months. We did statewide programs on this thing. It's pretty sad to talk to parents that say, we were thinking about having another child, but we can't get a child care slot. We had a job opportunity to move back to North Dakota. This was a child of a state legislator. Hey, we're going to move back home from another state. Oh, the place where we had the job offer? Well, we found a house. We have found a job. We couldn't find a child care slot. We're not moving. Literally, people didn't move back home because they couldn't find child care slots. So this was the thing. We've made a big dent in that thing. We got to keep supporting it. On innovative ed, we've acknowledged what we've done in the past. Want to quickly talk about what's in motion for today. You all folks know that last fall, by executive order, I created the Teacher Retention Recruitment Task Force. We've got 15 members, including legislators, Dean Rummel and Steve Swantek, a senator and a representative. We don't want to get to next August again and be like, oh, we're short of teachers. But then we're short of teachers, then it's a quote, a statewide crisis, and then we go out and look around and like, hey, a bunch of the districts don't have any issues with openings, and they didn't have issues last year, the year before, and then other districts do have it. So some of this is not a statewide issue. Some of it comes down to the district by district. We want to look at that and say, why are some districts? Is it competition from the private sector? Is it where you are in the geography of the state? What is the real issue? So that we're not trying to do a one-size-fits-all for the state when some districts are great at filling every position before a school starts and others struggle. But we want to look at everything from licensure to compensation to teacher prep program to retention. If we're producing teachers coming out of school, but then, hey, we can't retain them and they drop out, and that's the teacher mentoring programs that are going on. We're looking at this thing comprehensively. They just met on June 4th. They're going to provide a final report. They're going to keep working over the summer. They're going to provide that report to myself and Superintendent Baszler by September 30th. But stay tuned, and if you have input on ideas on how to improve teacher retention and teacher recruitment, get in touch with that task force. Couple other exciting things. North Dakota received from the U.S. Department of Labor our Registered Teacher Apprenticeship Program. We secured, DPI did $4.1 million grant from the Department of Labor to support the Registered Teacher Apprentice Program through June of 2027. We're the only state education department in the country to receive this from the Department of Labor. Give yourselves a hand. Way to go. Good job. That program is going to focus on 65 apprentices that they're going to become licensed teachers. And again, first in the nation to have that. So anyway, that's fantastic news. Other educational opportunities, we have a legislative study going on. Excited about this. There was a lot of talk in the last legislature about school choice and other educational opportunities. No bills got passed around that. But this is an opportunity about expanding choice for families and students. But I want you to think about this thing not as, we got to be against or for this word choice. It's not about choice, which building I'm going to go to or which district I'm going to go to, or we're going to lose funding and they're going to gain funding. Part of this is about choosing what educational pathway, what's the educational pathway within that building that they're already in. I talked about this at the beginning. We've got these waivers. We got this stuff. We got schools doing innovative stuff. We got schools in districts in the same district where one school is doing it and the other one isn't doing the competency-based personalized learning. So parents, of course, are going to say, hey, I want my kid to go to the thing that's going to serve them best. And our legislature is feeling that pressure from the parents. They're going to be looking at this thing. And I do want to thank Senator Michelle Axman is leading this effort on this thing, but this is fantastic that they're doing it. They're hoping to have recommendations for the 69th legislative session, which starts in January, and we're looking forward to that. And then another great first for DPI on Cognia accreditation. DPI embarked on this journey to become the first state education agency to be accredited. The goal of accreditation, of course, is to certify that an agency is involved in continuous improvement, a process that ultimately benefits what? Student outcomes. So anyway, this is the recommendation is going to go to Cognia Global Commission, final approval on June 17th, or June 27th, I'm sorry. But this is a true testament to DPI's dedication. This is a long process, but again, Superintendent Baszler, your whole team, we know you guys have worked really hard on this. This is going to be very cool at the end of the month when you're the first in the nation to achieve this. So way to go. So in the 7.5 years ago, one of the first things I said was, wow, North Dakota has an opportunity to lead in providing world-class education. And I wasn't just saying that as a thing, I was saying as a real possibility. We actually had the funding. We talked to each other. We've got a legislature that's committed. We've got local communities that are supporting. We didn't have a bunch of chronic problems. We didn't have like, here's our massive long list of failing schools. We had things that could get better, but we were starting in a good spot, and we had resources and commitment and all that. We said we could do that. We're better positioned than any other state to lead in educational outcomes. Yes, we've made progress, but we're not there yet. We're not number one in the country in all these things. And so, but I don't think that aspiration should disappear. I think all of us should double down that we have an opportunity to do it literally better than anyone else, because there are literally no excuses for us. We've got the resources, we've got the people, we can do this thing, and part of that is going to be doing it differently. So no matter where the student lives, if they live in a small rural district, they live in our largest metro, however they have an opportunity to get authentic real-world experiences that drive engagement, that create positive outcomes for them, that set them up for a life where they can have the things, they can have the American dream of family and community and friends and opportunity. But one of the things that for us to actually achieve that is we have got to keep innovating. And one area where we can lead is in AI, and our whole day today is around AI. AI is going to change every job, every industry, and every company and everything we do, just the same way that the technologies in my lifetime have done the same thing. But this wave is going to be more powerful and more large, and it's why we've got keynoters all day long today that are going to be driving this stuff. And so again, I say we've got 60 team members in our own state government that took part working with Microsoft to figure out how AI could help drive changes in state government. So we're working on it across state government, but we have to work on it in K-12 and higher ed. And we've got to use disruption to spark innovation. If we're afraid of that, that's going to be a problem. The disruption is coming, and we can either reject it, we can ignore it, or we can embrace it. It's coming, and we need to embrace it. We're going to have speakers up here shortly. They're going to talk about how we can embrace it. But one example I would say is that we did a great job, and it didn't come from K-12. It came from our NDIT team. Our NDIT team created the first national competition called Cyber Madness, and we had schools, Class B schools from the tribal reservations here. We had kids competing right here in this room on Cyber Madness. We've had it for high school, we've got it for junior high on this thing. That is like a very cool thing. That's a model that could actually grow to be a national competition about cybersecurity. Came from that disruption. But this disruption that's coming, it does favor us. We're the 4th youngest state in the nation. We used to be old, now we're young. We're the only state to get younger in the last decade. We've got demographics in our favor. We've got more kindergartners than we've got high school seniors. That's a good thing for K-12. And it's again, from an employment standpoint, this is a opportunity for students who want to learn to have any career they want. With all our economics are so strong in our state. And so with that, with strong economics and strong innovation, we've got these disruptors. The cultural piece of this is another disruptor. Some of our school districts have gone from one language spoken 15 years ago to 18 languages spoken now because of the influx of people coming because of the job opportunities. But the biggest disruptor that we're facing is around technology. This is something where we've got to get our hands around it. We're going to jump into this with our next keynoter. But in closing, if I just want to say, we've got to keep focusing on here. We've focused on innovation, not regulation. All the things I've talked about through all this legislation is things that give you freedom to do what you want to do, as opposed to the state telling you what you have to do. But now when the table's been set and the opportunity is there, we need more leaders to step up and grab that opportunity. Don't wait till somebody comes in and starts telling you what you have to do. It's better if you guys are driving it. And so the future is super bright in North Dakota. We're an ag and energy powerhouse. We feed the world, we fuel the world, we've got the resources, we play an incredible role in national security. I'm so grateful that all of you have dedicated yourselves to be in this field. But if we can be a powerhouse where we feed the word and fuel the world, we can also be a powerhouse where we've got the best educational system in the nation. We're better positioned than any state to lead the nation in innovative education. Don't wait to think that all the great ideas are coming from other places. They can come from here. Absolutely, positively, North Dakota can be the one where, wow, North Dakota's doing that better and differently than anybody else in the country. So again, with your stakeholders, with DPI, the legislature, the whole of state government behind you, I want to just close again with gratitude, because I want to thank everybody that's here, that's involved in this today, all of you that are here. Keep your curiosity, keep your courage, keep your humility, keep your gratitude in all you do. If you have those things, we're going to thrive. This isn't the end, this is just the beginning, and it's the beginning of a great program today. And so I'm closing out. I'm going to say thank you, and get ready, because the very next speaker right now is going to light it up for you. And so Maria's going to come on and introduce our next speaker. But thank you. Let's have a fantastic day.